Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, here we go. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Let me just see who. I can't see everybody who's logged in right now. Oh, it seems like we have. Okay, Haribo. Let me stop sharing my screen. So, welcome. Thank you all for joining us again for another week of Bhagavad-Gita lecture by His Grace Manonatha Dasa. We appreciate you being here again with us, Maharaj. So, with that, I'll go ahead and make a co-host, and then you can go ahead and start.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitan Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitantam Sajivam Satvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitancha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadada, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani, Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distress and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhar, Shivasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the fifth class that we are giving on the Bhagavad-Gita. We are very happy that we arrived here. We would like to have a wider public. Not yet, but one day we will have hundreds, hopefully, people. But these devotees here, each of them are like 10 people or 100 people. So we are happy anyway. So in the first class, we spoke about the introduction that Srila Prabhupada wrote about the Bhagavad-Gita, and there were a few points that we clarified, although in a very general way. We didn't get into any of them in depth. We just touched. It was just like all introduction, they introduce the topics, and so we have been for almost 2 hours talking about the general and the most important philosophical principles of the Bhagavad-Gita. Then we went to the first chapter. First chapter, it talks about Mahabharata, the history. Bhagavad-Gita is a chapter of the Mahabharata. So we told the story a little bit. It's 100,000 verses. Bhagavad-Gita is only 700, so you have an idea of the vastness of the book. The Bhagavad-Gita, the Mahabharata in English, is on its way of correction, and two important professors are correcting them, Bhakta Andy and Bhakti Rosario. And I don't want to push them very much because they, it's not full time. They have many other things to do in life, and they are trying to do their best, as always they do. But maybe at the end of this class, they will tell us where they are, at what point of the Mahabharata they are. Then we spoke about the second chapter. Second chapter, it talks about the two basic philosophical principles. One is the identity of the soul, of us, of the living being. Who are we? Is there any other more important topic to discuss? Probably not, because everything we do during the day starts with an act of identification. I am this one's, I'm a father, so I have to go and work. I am a woman, and then I have to do this. You don't go and try to fly like a bird, because you identify yourself as a human being. A human being do not fly; they do something else. So everything starts from an act of identity. Who am I? I'm a bird, so I fly. I'm a dog, so I bark. I am a human being, so I get to go to work, etc., etc. It's the first philosophical point to discuss. Who am I? And we described a little bit about the jiva, which means the living. Jiva, it comes from jiv, which means to live. And of course, we are not going to repeat everything here, because otherwise we don't go to the fourth chapter. But this was the most important philosophical principle we covered during the second class. In the second class, also we introduced, although we didn't have much time, the karma yoga. which means the action. In other words, I am a living soul. Okay, I got it. And now what I should do. This is karma yoga. Karma yoga is the science of action. Again, once I establish I am a spirit soul, how a spirit soul is supposed to live, or what it should do, what it should not do, what it should speak about, what it should think about. This is called karma yoga. We covered karma yoga in last week, and we spoke, although this topic is so vast that we can speak for 3, 4, 5 hours and never say the same thing again. But we outline the basic principles of karma yoga. And we said that a living soul must act, must do something. There are certain philosophies in India that advocates to stop acting. You just go in the top of a mountain in Himalaya, and just don't do anything and just withdraw from action. And the Bhagavad-Gita doesn't agree. Bhagavad-Gita says you do things anyway. Even if you meditate, meditation is action. Even if you don't do anything at all, if you sleep the whole day, you're still doing something. You dream, you breathe, you do something. There is no a single moment that we cannot not do things. So we have to know how to act. Third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is dedicated to this very important scientific point. Fourth chapter today. So we have arrived today and we are going to cover a few points. And the first point has been introduced in the first 3 chapters. But I think that we are going to mix the first 3 verses, not chapters, the first 3 verses, with another verse, which is the 4:34, which is the principle of the guru. We, at the beginning of the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says that I gave the science of yoga to the sun god, established so the method of spreading, teaching this knowledge. It doesn't say I inspired Vivashvan to dream knowledge, so he can dream it. In the morning, he will wake up and say, "This is what we should do." He says, "I spoke personally, not a guru 2,000 years ago, but I spoke this imperishable, eternal science to Vivashvan." And then Vivashvan taught the same science to his son, Manu, Vaivashvata Manu. Vaivashvata means a son of Vivashvan, Vaivashvata Manu. And then Manu to his son, Ishvaku. This is called parampara. Parampara in Sanskrit means one after the other. Param. This is what parampara means, one after the other. It doesn't say some guru dies on the cross 2,000 years ago, and we don't need a guru, we don't need a spiritual. Or I can understand spiritual science by myself. He never says this. Always say from guru to disciple. And the supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. And so the saintly kings or saintly brahmanas understood it in this way. The same science that I spoke to Vivashvan at the beginning of times, I'm going to repeat it to you, says Krishna to Arjuna. So Krishna is making Arjuna the head of a new parampara. Okay, so Krishna is going to repeat the same science. And why he chose Arjuna? Why he chose Arjuna? Because Sakha is his friend. He doesn't this science should not be spoken but to people who do not want to understand, who are not interested. Because not only they will not understand, but they will actually twist it. They will say, okay, he said that, but it means something else. Just like there was a very famous Dr. Radhakrishnan, a very nice name, but he wasn't very Radhakrishna devotee anyway. He was a president of India during Srila Prabhupada's life, and this Dr. Radhakrishna wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad-Gita. And in one of his purports, where Krishna says, surrender to me, Dr. Radhakrishna says, actually, Krishna, by saying surrender to me, didn't mean surrender to me. He meant surrender to the unborn within me. This is called mental speculation. Is this so simple? Krishna says, surrender to me. So you surrender to him. Why you want to extract some meaning that it is not there? Just like the scientists, they try to establish when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, when the Mahabharata war was fought, and they try all 3,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 1 million years ago, they tried. So what about just accepting what the Mahabharata says? What about that? Why you want to speculate? Why you want to create something that is not real? The Mahabharata says when this war was fought, just accept it. It is so simple. And this is the right way of studying the Vedas. Just accept what they say. Okay, so, and in the verse 34, Krishna says something very important. That is one of the most important verses of the Bhagavad Gita. That it says, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnana sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Verse 35. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. And by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So this principle is another principle as important as who we are, as how we should behave, how we should act. Because even the principle of who we are, we cannot get it from anywhere else, if not from a bona fide spiritual master. When we speak about a bona fide spiritual master, we also mean a bona fide scripture, because a bona fide scripture is written or explained or applied in a personal way by a spiritual master. So the principle of the guru is absolutely fundamental, and one in the beginning of spiritual life is actually accepting, looking. Tad vidhi pranipatena means go look for a spiritual master, to search for a spiritual master. Don't wait, he doesn't come from the sky. Sometimes he comes, but you have to put some effort, because Krishna, who is in our heart, sends us the spiritual master if he sees that we actually want him. If you don't, we have said something about this, I don't maybe in the Spanish classes, I don't remember. Anyway, we need a spiritual master, but we need a disciple also. Because if there is a good spiritual master, but there are no good disciples, He's not going to recognize the spiritual master. He's not going to see him as a bona fide spiritual master, but he's going to see him as a man or as a woman in the case of women spiritual masters. So we need a good guru and we need a good disciple. And this is what was happening here in the Bhagavad-Gita. We had the bona fide spiritual master, Krishna, and we had the bona fide disciple, who was Arjuna. That's why the Bhagavad-Gita was created, because we had both. So every one of us has to put this point as a central in our life. I had to go look for a bona fide spiritual master. And once I meet a spiritual master, what should I do? Talvidi, Pranipatena, look for a spiritual master. Then pariprashna. Pariprashna means you have to make questions. Okay? Listen from a spiritual master, of course, is wonderful. Okay? But pariprashna means make questions. Why making questions is so important? Because questions, it puts you in direct contact with the spiritual master, a personal contact with the spiritual master. So pariprashna, make questions. And then seva, do service. If you don't do service, you're not going to learn philosophy. You may learn it, but there are different kind of learning. There is I don't know if this word exists in English, epidermic, on the skin, epidermic. Means it's external, doesn't get inside. You know philosophy, you can be a great philosopher, but it will stay dry. When you speak, you just can feel it that this philosophy is dry, because this knowledge didn't get into his heart, into his mind, but it remained on the external. That's why I often use this word, epidermic, on the skin. And so you have to do service, because service completes the pariprashna. Okay? It's like knowing about your disease and knowing the medicine, but not taking it. Okay? So you have to pariprashna, make questions, and then you have to serve the spiritual master. Then once you have done this, it's time, it's a sacred time, it's the most important time of a life, which is upadesh. Upadesh means initiation. Initiation is not just a ceremony, it's the moment where you become part of the parampara. You are not just one devotee, but you are part of the family. One thing is to come into my home, and another thing is to be my son, my brother, part of my family. Are two different things. The second is more important. So initiation is important. So we have covered, unfortunately, we had to little bit to rush. These are very important points. We'll come back to this. It's not going to be the last time we speak about the Guru Tattva or Shishya Tattva. Guru Tattva means the principle, philosophical principle, the spiritual master. Shishya Tattva, the philosophical principle concerning the disciple. So now we go to the second point of the fourth chapter, that comes from a very nice question from Arjuna. Arjuna says, you, Krishna, says that you spoke this knowledge to Vivasvan. But this happened millions of years ago, about 120 millions years ago. So it's a long, long time. But Krishna had appeared a few decades, a few days actually, 1 year before Arjuna. So Arjuna didn't understand at this point. How can you say that you spoke to Vivasvan if you were not born at that time? And this question by Arjuna prompted Krishna to explain who he was. Who he was. And Krishna says, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot subdue the enemy. Krishna is repeating the same principle. Krishna is repeating that when we take birth, we don't take birth. We enter into a body, just like I can have a car. The car breaks down, I enter into another car. But it's not that I take birth every time I enter into a different car. So Krishna says to Arjuna, I am now in this body, but 120 millions ago, I was in another body. I'm just saying it in inappropriate words. It's not exactly, technically, it's not like it happened. But let's say that somebody enters into a body and then into another body. But the difference between us and Krishna, that Krishna can remember all the births he took, all the time he took a form in history, but we cannot. Once we enter into a human body, or an animal body, or a vegetable body, we forget about our past lives. So this is a difference. Krishna says we are not the same. It's not like some philosophers say that there is no difference between God and us. Actually, God does not exist as a specific individual. God is all of us. But Krishna said this is not true. Because I remember, you don't remember. That means that I am I and you are you. We are two different entities. And Krishna starts talking about himself. He's unborn. His body never deteriorates. This is another difference. Our body deteriorates. We become old and we become sick and we die. We leave this body. But this is not what happened to any of Krishna's bodies. When Krishna takes a body, his body is eternal. It does not deteriorate. And he appears in my original transcendental form. Original means he has 1,000 millions, trillions of original transcendental forms. So he incarnates in various forms like Ramachandra and Varaha and Nishinga and all of this. All the body or the form that Krishna takes, they are original, transcendental, and eternal. And here there is a very important verse where Krishna explains why he comes. Why Krishna comes in this world and becomes Varaha, Nishinga, Ramachandra, etc., etc. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and a predominant rise of a religion, at that time I descend myself. He comes for us. He doesn't need to come in this world. The spiritual world is much better place. He comes for us. When he sees that we have no the way of advancing spiritual life, that we have no way to improve, going up and going to the upper planets and then to the spiritual world, he says, okay, you are in trouble, I come. This is why Krishna appears. And he doesn't appear in the same form because we are not the same people. Sometimes we need Ramachandra, some other time we need Narsingha, another time we need Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, another time we need this, another that. It takes a form according to our necessities. Okay? And when to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, etc., to reestablish principle of religion, I take a couple of minutes to explain this word religion, because this word religion is very much misused. When we say religion, many of us, we have goosebumps. We don't like it because we have such a bad experience with religion. Not all of us, but surely a part of many of us, as we don't like this word. I didn't like this word. And I was born in the most Catholic city in the planet. So religion actually is a good word. Religion means it comes from Latin, to religo, relegare, like the book. We rebound, relegare is translated in English, a rebound. When your book becomes broken and the pages go everywhere, you bind again the book. This is the meaning of the word religion, religare. And the part re means again. In Latin and also in Greek, it's the same thing. Re means again. In other words, Krishna is saying that with the word religion, that we were together, but we became displaced. Okay? And now we relegare, we come in contact again. Again. Why again? Because we are soul. And therefore, there was a time that we were with Krishna. And religion and yoga is the same word. It's the same word. Yoga comes from huge. Huge means to reconnect. Religion and yoga is the same meaning. Okay. So the principal religion, Srila Prabhupada translated the word dharma in religion, although I can assure you that the word dharma is a very complicated word to translate. Since Srila Prabhupada had to say one philosophical concept, which is big philosophical, with only one word, he chose the word religion because we understand it. But actually, the principle of dharma, it's a quite complicated word to translate and explain, and we will do it in the next weeks. We are going to talk about the word dharma. And Krishna says that those who know the transcendental nature of my appearance activities, leaving the body, upon leaving the body, does not take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. Krishna again in this verse is saying different things. One thing is again, I am different from you. We are not the same thing. Because if you remember your lives, you don't go anywhere. If you remember my lives, you go back to the spiritual world. That means that Krishna is supreme and we are not supreme. And again, also, is making the point of what is the process of the spiritual advancement and final liberation, that is to remember Krishna, to think of Krishna, to speak about Krishna, to hear about Krishna. And this is the process of liberation. So we go on to the next point. We have spoken then about the parampara or the Guru Tattva, and then the difference between Krishna and us. Now we are going to talk about transcendental knowledge, which is the title of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. And so what is the result? Excuse me. What is the result of transcendental knowledge? What is the, you say that in English, the effect, the final result? Effect exists in English? Effect.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, effect. Cause and effect.
Right, cause and effect. All right. So what is the, once someone dedicates his life, not try to enjoy this body, which is a lost cause. How much you can enjoy, if you can enjoy. Enjoying life is difficult, you know. But let's say you can enjoy, how much you can enjoy. So it depends. It depends what is, let's say, where you want to invest your money, which is your time of your life. You have, let's say, 60, 70, 80 years, which is not much. I am 67, by crying aloud, you know? And it passed like this in 1 second. Yesterday I was 18, and now I'm 67, almost 66, something. So it's very fast. So we have this wealth that is time in the human body. how we want to invest it. We want to invest it for something that will end, or we want to invest it for something will not end. It exists a world that is eternal, an eternal world. Exists or not? Let's say it doesn't, you are not wasted your time. Let's say that it does. If you didn't dedicate your life to this end, then you have done the greatest mistake of your life. You're going to repent it. So it's very worth to dedicate a life to transcendental knowledge. And here there is a very important verse, because it says a lot of things, a lot, like freed from attachment. Attachment from what? Well, attachment to a lot of things, attachment to myself, to the way I see myself, to my conviction, attachment to the material things, which is money and enjoyment of the sensorial enjoyment, etc. And one should control fear, it should control anger. One should be fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and that they obtained transcendental love for me. Again, knowledge, one thinks of knowledge as some philosophical concept. Here, Krishna is not saying that. He says that transcendental knowledge is also practice. You have to study and you have to practice. Because if you study, but you lend your attachment, stay in your heart, then I cannot say that what's the use, because the use is too extreme. It's always useful. But it's not as useful as could be if you study and at the same time you say, okay, I learn this today and I'm going to practice it. Study and practice and study. These two things should go on at the same time. As everyone will surrender to me by studying and by practicing Krishna consciousness, then I will reward them accordingly. This is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. So now Krishna is going to deal with another problem. He has been talking about total renunciation, being freed from attachment, getting freed from fear and anger, being fully. This is a lot. Not all of us, unfortunately, not all of us are lucky enough to have this desire, this strength. So Krishna is going to now to teach us a gradual process to come to this point. And this is called Varnashrama Dharma. Again, this word Dharma, we must one day talk about this word, the four divisions of human society. Every one of us, this also Varnashrama is, I'm going to take 5 minutes, just to give you an idea of what is Varnashrama. Varnashrama means every one of us has taken birth with a nature that comes from previous lives. Some of us takes birth with a attraction to study and meditation and thinking and clean. We are cleaned physically, mentally, clean in words like this. Some other people are very passionate. They want to do things. They want to make money, and they want to become powerful. And someone else wants to become rich, money, and because they want to enjoy life. And then there is somebody else who is not really, he doesn't have any real qualities, but he likes to do things, help others, like that. This is called Varna Ashram. Varna in Sanskrit means colors. Brahmana is a type of color, which means characteristics. And Kshatriya, and then there is the Vaishya, then there is a Shudra. All of them, they have different characteristics. And every one of us is taking birth with this particular nature. In Kali Yuga, there is no a pure Brahmana, pure Kshatriya, a pure Vaishya, a pure Shudra. every one of us has a mixed elements, and you can see it very clearly, you know, mixed elements. You see some Brahmana, but also likes to do something else, or some Brahmana who does not understand philosophy very well, so he has some Shudra characteristics in his nature like this. So this is called Mishra. Mishra means mix of qualities. So this is the Varna. Then we have the ashram. We are going to talk about the ashram in a couple of minutes. A society which is not divided into these classes is a hopeless society. Because if society do not give facilities to a scholar to study, and he has to go to get a job, to maintain the family, then he's going to be unhappy the whole life, because he would like to study, he would like to teach. He doesn't want to go, selling pots door by door. He wants to study the Vedas. He wants to study philosophy. He wants to study history. He wants to study physics, and that's and a kshatriya. He would like to manage societies. He wants to manage things, but then he has to go and get a useless jobs like that. So this materialistic society has only one varna. It is called money. Nobody cares about anything else. Nobody cares about your qualities. You just get money in a way or in another. And then what you do with your money? You do with your money, you do what the dogs they do in the street. The dogs eat, you eat. The dogs sleep and you sleep. The dogs they have some sex, and you have some sex. Like this. Same thing. The difference is that the dogs are more intelligent, but because they don't have to get a job to do something that is totally natural. So we are much more foolish than dogs and the other animal, because we strive so much to get what they have free of charge. And they don't have to pay taxes either. So because this society, I don't know who created in this way, is the stupidest society ever imagined by a man. It's so complicated, uselessly complicated, because everything we need is free. You need air, it's free. You need a house. The house is made of it's made of earth. It's made of earth. It is in nature. You take some earth, you make bricks. You put it one over the other. That's your home. And you need water, and water comes free of charge from the sky. And you need light. Light is free. It comes from Viverstrand. And then what do you need? You need something to eat. Everything is free. It comes from the earth, from the soil. It comes from the trees. You just take it, your apple, and you eat and you live. Why you have to work 1 hour to get something that is free? So this is materialistic society. Materialistic society means a society which has been invented, fabricated by people who don't have clue of what is, and people waste their lives just to get something that is free from nature. And so the three modes of material nature, we have mix of modes. And a society, Srila Prabhupada always wanted that we in ISKCON, we created the basic of Varnashram society. But then the devotees, they go to war, take a job outside the temple, and there was a point. You replicate what the material, by merging into the materialistic society, then what's the use of making a Varnashrama society? Everyone goes out. Anyway, we are not being able to make a Varnashrama society as Srila Prabhupada wanted, but the principle is there. It's not easy to understand how to build up a society like this, but it's not impossible. And then there are the ashram. What is the ashram? Ashram is for spiritual life. Varna is for a social organization. Ashram is for spiritual life. Spiritual life, you are young, you go in Gurukula, which is the school of the spiritual master, you learn. You learn everything you need to learn. And then you go out of the Gurukula and you get married if you want so. And you make a, living and family, etc. And then there is a moment to retire, retiring, and you retire, and then sannyasa. So brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. These are the 4 stages of spiritual life. This is called varna ashram. Varna, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. Ashram, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. Dharma, the laws, the rules of the varna and the ashram. And Krishna says, although I inserted between parentheses, although I am now acting as a kshatriya, actually I'm doing it only to give an example, because there is no work that affects me, Krishna says, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. Again, this principle, very important principle, the fruits of action. And those who understand that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that I don't act for the results, but act only to give an example to other people, those persons, then they will become liberated. And again, Krishna takes up again this very, very important philosophical principle of action. Action, even intelligent people are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. One who sees inaction in action is intelligent among men. It seems complicated, but it's not. Okay, action that are made in devotion are inaction. Why? Because it does not give result. Understand? But those who not act spiritually, actually this inaction is action, because it will give them results in the material world. So those who act in devotion, in full knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, actually is not doing karma. It's not doing karma intended as action, and it's not doing karma intended as a result of the action. There is no action without a reaction. There is no. Who knows why all these floods and water killing people and destroying cities? Why? It's so difficult to understand. It's so difficult to understand that there is no reaction without action. You caused that. You caused that. So it's this is a very simple, apparently simple lesson that we have to learn, that we have to know what is good action to have good reaction. If you get a bad reaction, means that you did some bad action. So you have to learn what is good action and what is a bad action. And that's why Krishna consciousness in this world is so important, because we have to learn what to do and what not to do. Those who work in devotion, these people, they get no reaction of what they do. And they get no reaction, good reaction or bad reaction. They don't get any of the two. And you may ask, I want good reaction. No, you don't want a good reaction. Because when you talk about good reaction, you means good material reaction. And whether your action and reaction are good or bad, you come back in this material world. You want to come back in this material world? You don't. You want to go back in the spiritual world. It is eternal. That is perfect. It's full of joy. Why you want to come in this material world? You know? So, so both by doing devotional action, devotional service, you don't do action, and so you don't do reaction. You don't generate a reaction, and this is very, very important. So we get to this point. It's this point. I think we have to leave it for another way, and so it's almost 1 hour. And I would just want to touch another point just quickly, and this is a verse that sometimes it bewilders people, devotees, and everyone. This is the verse. Ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scripture do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is a happiness. There is no happiness, neither in this world nor in the next. Okay. Here he's talking about faith. He's talking about doubts. Aren't we supposed to have doubts? Are we supposed to believe blindly what the scriptures say, even when we don't understand it, even when we don't agree? At the beginning of the spiritual life, it's very normal to have some doubts and to have some disagreements. And if any of you will tell me that at the beginning of the spiritual life you never had any doubt or you had any disagreement, I won't believe you, because it is humanly impossible. You must have some doubt. Otherwise, it means you are not intelligent. An intelligent person has doubts and has. So what what Krishna is saying here? He's advocating blind faith, and no, it's not. What Krishna is advocating here is that once you have understood the scriptures, when you have realized, at least partially, the truth of the scripture, if you still disagree and you still against the evidence that this is true, just like now we are in the evening, the sun in Texas here is coming down, and I can say, no, it's not true, the sun is still up, and you say, well, this is not true. It's objectively not true. There must be an objective truth, and this objective truth is there. And once you have ascertained the objective truth, you cannot, just for false ego or for pride, say, no, I don't agree because I don't agree. Look, the sun is coming down, it's just a little twilight now. No, I don't agree. Why? Because I don't like it, because I don't. This is foolishness. Once you have understood, realized, even partially, even only partially, objective truth, you have to accept it. Otherwise means that you are not ready, you are not sincere in your quest. All right, so we have covered a few philosophical points. Now it's time for questions. Pariprashna questions.
Okay. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the class. It was really great, the way it was structured and everything. I had a question regarding initiation. So, what exactly is happening in that space of time between like you first being introduced to spiritual knowledge and then taking initiation? There's like a gap of space. So, what's happening there?
First of all, initiation is one, and so it's a very, very serious thing, a very serious step. There is no a most important step in human life than taking initiation. In this gap, you have to learn philosophy to want initiation. This is the first step you have to take. You have to desire. I know quite a few devotees who are devotees, but they don't want initiation. They're not interested. They never speak about it, taking initiation. So that means that there is something wrong in their mind, in their spiritual life. I've seen this quite a few times in my life. So the first step between the beginning and the end is to study and practice philosophy to understand the importance of. I remember when I joined around the beginning of the end of August, the beginning of September of 1974. I went to live in a temple. Only 1 month after, I remember it was October, the temple president called me and other two devotees, and he said, do you want to take initiation? And so since Srila Prabhupada accepted me, and he sent my name by phone, they call from India, Srila Prabhupada called from Vrindavan to give me my name. A couple of months passed, and I was in a state of total fibrillation. Is that exist? Fibrillation? No, doesn't exist.
Happiness?
No, I go to Google Translate to find this word because I like it. Okay, fibrillation. Yeah, fibrillation. It's fibrillation. Like Google says it exists. Fibrillation means that you are not, you are waiting with a lot of anxiety. This such an important point in my life. So this is how a devotee should feel once they understand the importance of taking initiation. After you understand that he must take initiation, you have to look for a spiritual master. You cannot take initiation by yourself. You need the guru, And the guru has to be bona fide. Otherwise, your initiation has no value whatsoever. It's zero value. Actually, it's not even zero. It's a negative number. It can destroy your spiritual life. Taking initiation from a false, not bona fide spiritual master. So what are the qualities of a bona fide spiritual master? We can begin and never end, probably, maybe in a couple of days. Okay. But the most important qualities of a spiritual master is first, he has to have taken knowledge from a guru, means the parampara, as we have learned today. He has to have studied, and so he has to be able to answer all questions. He has to be a scholar. He has to be, how you call it in English, someone who is very, the word doesn't come up. Anyway, so this is the first question. He has to know, he has to be helping with, it will arise sooner or later. But that he is a great scholar and he knows philosophy is not enough. It's a Kshatriyam Brahmanishtam. This is the Mundaka Upanishad. Tad Vigyanartan Sagurum Evabiga Shet Samit Shamit Pani. Kshatriyam Brahmanishtam. Kshatriya means very learned, very, very learned. And the second, it has to be Brahmanishta. It's like in Spanish, we have a star. Brahma, transcendental. He has to be in transcendental consciousness. So again, this concept of knowledge and practice of knowledge, it comes up again. So this is a good spiritual master. When you have the desire of a spiritual life, you have to desire meet a spiritual master, and then when you meet him, go for it. So there is a lot of other things. I very strongly advise a spiritual master in ISKCON movement, in our movement. Why? There are no good spiritual masters outside our movement? Yes, there are, probably. So surely there are. But they advise to be initiated in ISKCON for the simple fact that in ISKCON we are trying to maintain Srila Prabhupada mood. you see. And Srila Prabhupada mood is very important. Just like if you go to study physics from a teacher and you go to another teacher, you may get confused because the science is the physics, okay? But the science is not enough. You also have to know how to apply it, how to teach it, what is the right mood, etc., etc. And in our movement, we are trying to maintain decades after decades, and not only the teachings, but also the mood of Srila Prabhupada. So this is my the gap. And once you have got the desire, you got the spiritual master, you go to a spiritual master, you say, please give me initiation. Initiation is a duty of the spiritual. That's his job, you know. It's not that he can say, no, I don't want because I am, you say that in, because I'm lazy. Having a disciple is a lot of problems, you know. They write to you and they have problems, so they expect you got to answer. So someone may say, no, I don't want too many disciples because I have other things to do. You cannot do that. Once you accept somebody, that's for life. It's like having a son or a daughter. So once you accept it, you got to accept it, and then you have to take care. So it's a very important step, and so how long it could take? What is a reasonable lapse of time before beginning and actually the right time to take initiation? I have noticed one thing: the devotees who wait too much, they have a big problem taking initiation. That's my experience in life. You know, I know devotees who have been devotees of 30, 40 years. I gave initiation to one devotee who has been devotee before me. You know, when I gave initiation, he knew the devotees before me. So, and he never took initiation. And I spoke to him and he said, well, what happened? It's been more than 40 years. He said, I don't know. Every time I meet a spiritual master, it's like, you know, I would like to say I want initiation, but it doesn't come out. It came out with you, with me, who knows what, how, why. But anyway, those who wait too much, that's the, but those who wait too little is also, it could be a problem. Because if you are not ready, you shouldn't take initiation. But once you have the basics or the qualities, you must take initiation. I have several devotees, not only taking or not taking initiation from me, but also from other spiritual masters, who say, no, I don't take initiation because I'm not qualified. Okay. If you don't take initiation, you're never going to be qualified. Okay, it's initiation who will give you the qualities. Of course, the basic qualities must be there. You cannot take initiation if you eat meat or drink beer or this kind of things. There's very simple discipline must be there, because at the time of initiation, we have to promise not to eat meat, not to take any type of intoxication, not to have sex outside the marriage for having children, and to avoid the gambling. Okay, so these things you promise, and the promise is sacred. You must keep them. So don't wait too much, don't wait too little. Be smart and wait the right moment with the right person.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Rosario.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please receive my obeisances and my respect.
Arrivo.
Thank you very much. I have a question, Guru Maharaj. I would like to know, being the fact that we are individual souls that we were before, We are now and we will be in the future. How is it that we are so hesitant to surrender? How is it that we have to go through so much struggle before we surrender to Krishna?
Because you are not ready. You know, coming to the point of surrender, it may come after birth and birth and birth. You know, it can take hundreds of births, it can take thousands, who knows? You know, to somebody it could be one birth, because so depends what it is in your heart, how much you want it. Just like everything in life, you know, you can get something if you really want it, but if you don't, there is nobody who can oblige you, force you to want something. Someone can force you to do something, but nobody can force you to want, to desire, to wish for something, because desire is intimate, it's inside the inner part of your being. So when someone has difficulty to surrender, it's simply because they are not ready. Maybe that there is someone who forces, says, I don't want, I'm going to do it. All right. I know a few devotees. I know quite a number of devotees who are not ready. But by taking initiation from Srila Prabhupada, I remember quite a few, at least 3 or 4 of my godbrothers, we were living in a temple together, we were talking, and they said, no, I don't want to do this, I like this particular thing. And, you know, I'm going to promise Srila Prabhupada not to do it again for the rest of my life. That's impossible, you know. I'm surely going to fall down. And so we were talking days after days after days, and at the end said, oh, you know, I'm just gonna do it. You know? And some of them are still devotees after 46, 47 years of taking initiation. They are still here. They had their problems in the spiritual life. It's not that the spiritual life is going always flat line, you know. Sometimes you have bumps, sometimes you fall down and then you come back. That's normal, okay. But I could say that somebody who forces something that they had no, that they were successful. While on the other hand, I could see persons who didn't really think seriously about how serious initiation is. They did it anyway, and then they fall down. And falling down is not really good for the spiritual master. But the spiritual master knows. Part of my disciple, they're going to fall down. You know, Prabhupada knew. He gave initiation to almost 5,000 devotees, and how many of them they are, you know, they follow him. No, surely, maybe, I don't know. not everybody, surely, and not 50%, and less than 50%. But did he know? Of course he knew. But this is how they got the hope to make it. Okay? Fake it until you make it. Try to do it until you do it. Okay?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, so any other question? We have some 10 minutes more, but then Divya is here. Yes, please. The audio, you have to unmute. Okay.
Maharaj,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare.
I can't begin to express my extreme joy to be here in your presence. And I thank you so much for welcoming me back. And I must say that I've been stuck in a circle of mental speculation. And I would like to make a question, and I hope it's not too complicated a question, but it comes from a verse later in the Bhagavad-Gita in chapter 10, verse 15. And in this verse, it says that the supreme truth is realized in three aspects: as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and at last as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
What's the verse
So-
again? Sorry. What's the verse?
Okay, this is 10, 15. Chapter
Okay.
10,
I
verse
got it.
15. And in Srila Prabhupada's commentary, he states that the supreme truth is realized in three aspects: as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and at last as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let me explain where I am stuck, and maybe you can help me understand this better. Why is it that we cannot believe, if all of these things exist, why can we not believe in all of them at the same time? Why cannot we believe in or the impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is it necessarily a progression from one to the other? And do some of us sometimes, by mistake, maybe start going back in the other direction? This is the mental speculation, maybe where I am stuck. And could you please draw some light on this topic?
The one you mentioned is a very nice verse, which is very famous. Vadanti tattva vidas tattam yach jnanam advai brahmeti brahma iti paramatma iti bhagavan iti sabdyate. That's the Srimad Bhagavatam verse. That is a verse who has been constantly mentioned because this is a powerful verse against impersonalism. And I will explain you why. The fact that exists an energy, Brahman, is the proof itself that there must be an energetic. Because science means accepting something that that has some, at least some logic. Okay, you cannot believe, when you believe something there's no logic whatsoever, then this is a blind, the worst type of religion. I accept it, although there is no way that could be truth. It cannot be true, but I accept it because I like it. All right. So we have no experience of an energy without somebody behind the energy. For instance, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti sabdyate. Sabdyate means it is said. So now when speaking, what is speech? Speech is an energy. It's my energy. All right. So if someone tells you, look, there is a speech, but there is no speaker, what would you say? Well, anything can be, but I have no experience of any energy without an energetic. If there is a speech, there must be a speaker, because this is how reality, at least what we have experienced until now, we saw. So then we know that this energy resides somewhere. Like my speech, it comes from what? From my capacity of speaking. This is the indriya, the subtle senses, and it is localized inside me by the interactions of my subtle senses and my gross senses with this, in the case of speech, my tongue. So we have the subtle sense of speech and we have the gross sense of speaking, which is the tongue. And these two localized inside my body gives rise to speak, to speech. But even now, even more, it is impossible that a localized capacity and an energy coming from a localized has no a source. And the source, it is called Bhagavan. Bhagavan iti sabdyate. Bhagavan is the person. A person is capable of speaking, and a person speaks. So when if someone gets attached to the energy and not to the energetic, is someone who is not interested into the truth. He's just fascinated by the adventure of looking, of searching, of this poetic, sentimental thing of I'm going to spend my life searching under the thing. I'm going to do this kind of life, which is just poetry. What is poetry? I always make difference between philosophy and poetry. Poetry is something that does not exist. It just gives you some emotion. This is sense gratification, actually. I want to taste something in my life. So poetry is better because philosophy is dry. Philosophy tells you everything. So I can't say anything because everything is already there. So where is my pleasure? Where is my emotion? Poetry is better. There is a great light where I can go and stay there. Nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells me what to think, etc. And this is poetry because it doesn't exist. So any poetry, when we say, "Oh, my lover, her two eyes are like the sun and the moon," she has not the sun, the moon, and the eyes. They're just two eyes, But we are expressing something that does not exist. So this is the philosophy of the three description of three aspects of the same Supreme Personality. Only a person has a localized and energetic aspect, while this cannot be on the reverse. If the Supreme Being were only energy is not personality. So there will be only Brahman. It's not localized because energy is everywhere, it's nowhere and everywhere. So it's not Paramatma, no Bhagavan. And the Supreme cannot be Paramatma because Paramatma is localized, but localized what? Who is localized? And the Paramatma can have energy, but cannot have the person. And the person is the basic truth of reality. There must be a person behind everything because everything speaks about a person. Just like now we are the sunset, okay? So I say this sunset is a mathematical principle, material mechanism, okay? But it's not casual. It's not that tomorrow the sun will set at midday or 1 o'clock. It sets always at the same time. So this is mathematics. This is math, and math cannot be casual. It cannot have come from a big explosion, from a big bang, because a big bang cannot create any so regulated, so perfectly, so mathematical, so foreseeable nature. When you see a law, immediately you think to a lawmaker. Cannot be a law without a lawmaker, because who made it? Who made it? It came by itself. Oh, this is foolish. Cannot be. It can be 1 time, 2 times, but everything here is law regulated. It's not just the sun, the moon also. The moon comes up always the same time. It's always not at the same time. Of course, we know that there are different times, etc. But we see that it's mathematical. You can say any time of the year, you can establish at this time, the moon will be exactly there, and it is going to be there. So it's not casual. Why? Because a person created a law. There is a lawmaker behind all laws. So this verse, this verse, I conclude. This verse, it says that the supreme truth is a person, is a localized entity, and is an energy at the same time. But the supreme is Bhagavan, cannot be, it just logically and shastrically also. Bhagavan is the supreme. So to conclude, is saying if someone is more attracted to another, it's because it's, again, well, I already explained, it's not, he doesn't want it, this person doesn't want the truth yet. Maybe one day, maybe another life, but you cannot fight against the truth. You can say, I don't like it. That you can say. I don't want it because I don't like it. Okay. But you cannot say this is not true. Okay. Any other question?
Thank you for your wisdom.
Yes, Maharaj, I have a question. From what you were explaining just now, why is it that it has to be, or why is it that it's a person? How do we know that it's a person? I know you kept saying that, but I'm just not understanding the fact that it has to be a person who's creating all this. I mean, how do we know it's not anything other than a person?
Because the concept of a person includes everything else, while everything else doesn't include a person. In other words, anything else without a person, then there is no logic in anything. Again, saying that there is a law without a lawmaker, that's really logical. That's really logical because what is the source of the astrodynamics, for instance? That now people are very attracted to go to space. To go to space, you need to know how the planets, they move, etc., etc. So they can establish where Venus is going to be tomorrow at a certain time. They can start with seconds, and they know exactly where it is, where it's going to be. So you say that is where it comes from, this perfection. Where it comes from? It comes from what? I really have difficulty even to put myself in the shoes of materialistic people, because there's no, my intelligence does not make sense. The only thing that I studied as I was a very young devotee, one day I was invited at one university in Rome to discuss about the Big Bang. I was 19. And the senior more devotees, they were sick, they couldn't go. So they tell me, you go. I was 19 years old. I was supposed to go in a university to talk to professors and students. So I had to read some books before about the Big Bang, etc., etc. There was one specific book, so there was a book of 400 pages. And I had to go through all these things, And then at the end, after having taken 2 weeks of my life studying this thing, last page, yeah, but everything I said in this book is purely theory. It may be everything wrong. Why don't you say it at the beginning? So I will spare time. In other words, either we accept that we have an intelligence and we try to see for the foremost logical explanation, or we say, I don't want to use my intelligence to establish what is true and what is not true. And maybe I don't care, or if I care, I want to use it another instrument, maybe just my heart. I'm going to choose whatever I like it, whether it's true or not. And to establish if it's true or not, then I'm going to use intelligence. But intelligence is the most sophisticated tool we have, because we can study something and establish if this thing is acceptable or not acceptable. So to talk about an energy that doesn't come from an energetic, it does not make sense. I'm talking just about logic, we are talking because we have power, we have electricity. Where this electricity comes from? It comes from somewhere. It's not that it comes by itself. And we have all these things, and the men constructed things, and then we have electricity everywhere. Men built it up. It didn't do it by itself. Computers, they didn't do it by itself. This kurta, it was not by itself. Everything has a personal source. The spectacles, this everything. So I say that the supreme being is a person because it's the most logical thing to say, and not only because Shastra and Guru, my spiritual master, said that, and not because of the Vedic scriptures say that, but during all these many years of studying and thinking, it's the most logical thing to say.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Again, if someone tells you, I know I already said that, I want to repeat it. Sorry. Someone tells you this class, nobody gave this class. It was just a class coming from a little bang somewhere. Then, if a class of philosophy came out from, you put some dynamite, you say that the thing of dynamite there, boom, and then a nice class of philosophy came out, and you said that's impossible because from a chaos cannot come something logical. Whether if my class was logical or not, still there was a thought. I thought before speaking. Okay, and it come from a boom. It came from a person, because only a person is capable of planning what to say and how to say it. Only a person. You can try, put explosive underneath a pile of concrete and wood and water and set it off, and boom, a house comes out. Can be, well, purely from it could be. It can happen one time every trillions of trillions, but it could be. But we haven't seen creation, logical creation, one time every trillions and trillions. We have seen it repeatedly. You and your husband, you had a man born. It didn't come a bird or something else. Two birds coupling, it comes another bird. It doesn't come a lizard, because everything is so precisely made. Everything is. When I was very young, I had the opportunity to accompany one Nobel Prize visiting Rome, and was driving, and we were. So it was a Nobel. It was Wald, Roger Wald or something. He was American, and he liked philosophy, our philosophy very much. He was always coming to the temple. You can look for him, Ward the Wald, something like that. So we were speaking about casualty, meaning how creation can come from can be casual. It came because casually he came, and he said, you have a very nice poetry here in Italy, which is called the Divina Commedia. No idea how to translate that in English, from a great poet called Dante Alighieri. So if you take this poetry and cut every letter, with a scissor, and you put it in a big bag, okay, and you shake it, you go up in a building, you throw it down and pretend that this piece of paper, they come down and they became recomposed as a Divina Commedia, it could be. but only a madman can think that this is a logical explanation. This is not logical. It's a pure, only because one wants to challenge the truth and say, yes, it's possible. Yes, it's possible. Why not? Okay. Yes, it can be, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So again, in conclusion, organization it comes from someone organizing it. It's a person behind. That's why it is called the supreme personality of Godhead. All right, so I think unless there is a last question, we can stop here. If there is a question immediately, otherwise I will call. Okay. So I want to conclude by saying that the 49th publication has been published today. Our book, it is a book in Italian. And of course, you don't know Italian. Still, I like it to, what you say, celebrate it. Because for me, every time I publish a book, it's like a huge feast. So I want to present to you the book. This is the Gora Gadondesha Dipika. It's a book written about the end of the 16th century, 1580 or something, more or less. It is being written by Kavi Karnapura. He's the son of Shivananda Sena, one important devotee. He is a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was very young, very, very young. He was like recently born, and he has some interaction with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he put himself the question of who the devotees of Lord Chaitanya were during the pastime of Krishna, 4,500 years. Who Krishna is Chaitanya, and this was Balaram, and this one was a Gopa, and the other one was a Gopi. Who is who? Everybody. So he wrote this very beautiful book called Gora Ganodesha Dipika. Dipika means light. Gana means the associate. Udesh means the congregation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is in Italian. Of course, you cannot read Italian probably, but Gora Ganodesha Dipika is in English and in Spanish at the same time. And this is a book that no devotee should not read. And we are working very hard in the Radha Krishna Ganodesha Dipika in Italian, and we are working very hard in the Mahabharata in English, of course. And soon we are going to have all of this. Okay? I think we can wrap it up here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for this wonderful class and answering all our questions. Thank you all for joining us this week. We hope to see you back next week. If you'd like to come off mute and just say a quick Haribol, a quick thank you to Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your association. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Great class.
Thank you.